guys, and they're taking the leadership.
Is Baker their president then?
I don't know. Listen to that. This is what I did with my doctorate degree.
I like that you can say that now.
Yeah, I can see it.
I can just say, that's what I did with my master's.
Okay, with your MBA, right?
Yep. I am considering one of two other programs to do part-time if we get free school.
Lifelong learner, what are you thinking about?
Either business data analytics or I did so I've got a graduate certificate in digital marketing
Okay.
through our interactive media studies program, and they are converting it to, well, not converting, they're adding a full-fledged master's program, so I would already be halfway to it, and yeah, but the business analytics is interesting to me.
I think analytics is,
It's also buzzy.
yeah, I mean, anything that's data mining related is
Right.
a thing right now.
And I think being able to bring that to some of the stuff we do,
Yeah.
like, is
Answer my questions I keep asking people about.
why, and I like analytics, and I like data, and I like assessment, but I like assessment from that data analytics perspective. And much of our division
It's more.
likes it from the warm fuzzies, yeah. So I did our.
And you need both.
I did last year we used to have a assessment certification program, ECP, yeah. So I did that last year. There's no degree with it. It was Gwen and Gary Riss teaching it.
Was it helpful?
It was good. I think it helped me understand more of the fuzzies.
Mm-hmm.
Are we live?
Yes.
Is anybody signed in?
Well, I'm just now sending out the link to people.
Okay.
So, I mean, people would have to rewind to hear anything that's been going on so far.
Cool.
I mean, probably should have thought about that before I shared that email with you.
We didn't indicate anything.
Well, and we weren't live then.
Okay, good. Because I'm now on record calling somebody again.
Well, now you are. Okay, so Drew, right here is what you'll need to watch. You're logged into student activities.
Okay.
And you can answer any questions. And if people have topics they want me to cover, tell me and I'll put them on the board. So just watch this chat.
We got a mic you up. We need to do mics next time. Is that recording too?
Yes.
Okay.
It's been recording for longer. It might have gotten Kim saying stuff.
Do you want me to start a new one?
It's because we can cut it. If we edit from there, we can just cut them again.
We haven't done anything yet.
I mean, you can. It really doesn't matter. Drew, I need you to come up here and talk for a minute.
Okay. Where? Testing, testing. Red Brick Rewards. New advisor training. Test, test.
We're good.
leadership training opportunities, and just like take a second to focus on those.
That's a good topic.
It just makes it hard, so yeah, I think you had anything that she wanted to specifically ask about. And also maybe the transition binder.
Okay, so we are going to get started now. We have several people watching on our live stream and here in the room. Welcome. Hi. Welcome to the new advisor training. We are going to cover a number of topics. And as this is a training for new advisors, I was last a new advisor really long ago, before some of our students were born. So, for being a new advisor, I don't always know what new advisors need. So we have a list on the board of some topics that I know that new advisors need. What we'd like for everyone to do, if you're in the room, you can shout them out to me, I can add them to the board, or you can come up and write them. If you're watching via the live stream, you can message us and we'll add topics to the board. If you think of them in the process of this, still just say, hey, remember to talk about this? We'll add it so we can check off everything and make sure we cover everything people need. Topics that we know we're going to cover, we're going to talk about the hub, which is very important to understand for all advisors. We're going to talk about advisor liability and what that means. And that means different things depending on the type of advisor you are. We're going to talk about RedBrick rewards. We're not going to go too in-depth, but we are going to break down a few of the confusing things and opportunities there. We're going to talk a little bit about ASG funding. If there are any, that only affects certain organization types, and we'll go into that a little too. Brief finance information, just a few quick reminders. Our last training was on finance, and it is available on our YouTube channel, so you can get the whole information about finances there, but we'll be covering some of that. We'll be talking about the SIL ambassadors and our SIL awards, and explaining why we keep saying the word SIL with everything we do. And we'll be talking about a couple of advising books. So if you have any other topics you want to hear, feel free to let us know. You can ask your questions in the live stream. You can also just shout them out if you're here. And we're going to get going with all of these topics. I'm going to start with something that's not technically up there, but is all-encompassing up there, and that's the Student Activities website. The Student Activities website is a resource for you for a lot of different things you need. So I'm going to not go step by step through this. You can explore the website, but show you where a few key things that you want are. How we have our website broken down. We have a few key links on the front. The hub, which we will again get to in a few minutes. Link to our SIL workshops. We'll be talking more about SIL workshops in a bit, but those are workshops aimed to help student orgs make their organizations better. Our student government and how to start an org for new organizations. Info about RedBrick rewards, map, and some social media and calendar stuff. But up top, there's the About. The About section is our basic who we are, what we do. So it has mission and vision, it has staff bio, stuff like that. You'll find that there. Involvement, so a good portion of our website, and this portion, is aimed at helping people who are looking for ways to get involved. So we're looking at people who are like, oh, I want to get involved, and we have a different breakdown here for that different types of things. So again, a link to the hub. We have no problem linking things in 5 different places on our website because we want it to be everywhere you could want to find it. Again, info on starting a new org. This is where the SIL ambassadors are, because as you'll see when I talk about them, they play a couple different roles. Also, this is where they'd find information about Mega Fair. This is also where people can find out the recent judicial history of our student orgs. So any orgs who are brought up on anything, whether registered student org, fraternity or sorority, any student orgs that are brought up on any charges can be found there. Events and programs are different things put on by our office. So you think of MAP and Late Night Miami. our SIL awards, which we're going to talk about, the Mega Fair, different programs you'll find listed here. Over in finances is a deep breakdown of a lot of the different financial information. So you'll see a lot of those policies we talked about in our last training listed right there, as well as a lot of the resources. Student organization resources is the most important part on here for advisors. So this is where you'll find a lot of the different things you need. So it has a lot of the policies and procedures, things for advertising, marketing events. Right in the middle of the page, 25 Live and Virtual EMS, how you reserve rooms on campus. It has our event planning resources we have. It has info about Red Brick Rewards, what IT services are available for student orgs, and it has the Advisor Resources tab. So, looking at this, looking at advisor resources, some of the things we have here. We do have an advisor interest form. So if someone's looking for an organization to advise, is wanting to advise another organization, they can fill out this form, and it's just a way of telling us, hey, I'm interested in advising something, here are my general interests. Now, this doesn't automatically lead to an immediate match with a student organization. We don't look for organizations that match your interest and go, ooh, here's one, ask them if they need an advisor. Instead, when organizations come to us, which happens every couple months, and say, hey, our advisor left, our advisor's not at the university anymore, we need an advisor, we try to find a match that way. If you're interested in advising a specific organization or co-advising, as would probably be the case, an organization that currently exists, you could always reach out to that organization. But what we do is help match up with organizations who don't have an advisor. We also have an advisor job description. Now, this is a general job description. This isn't saying this is what all advisors will do and covering all situations. This is our suggestions for what a good advisor should do. So things like meeting with student officers at least once a month. Making sure you keep making sure you keep a relationship not just with the president, but the treasurer as well, because finance is a major part of being the advisor. Attending periodic meetings and activities. And how you do that depends on you. I advise a handful of student orgs. One of the orgs, I'm at 3/4 of their events that they put on. Another org, I show up once or twice a semester to support their events because they don't need me there as much, and what they're doing is much more low risk and low scale. Another organization I advise, when they travel to major national or regional tournaments, I travel with them to make sure that everything goes well and that their safety taken care of. Help ensure that the activities the org reflects favorably on the university. That's a major part of being an advisor. We'll talk about different types of organizations. So for affiliated organizations, an organization that is part of the university. So we have a list on our website of those affiliated orgs. I'm not going to read it to you. But for those organizations, your job is, as part of the university and the affiliated org being part of the university, if the org is trying to do something that you think will be bad, to tell them, no, you can't do this. As a registered student org advisor, your job is to tell them, yeah, you probably shouldn't do this, let's talk about this, let's think about this to see if you really want to do it and how this reflects on the organization. We have had organizations advisors tell their organizations, you can't do this, if you do, I will stop being your advisor because this reflects poorly on the university and me. So how much of a stand you need to take depends on the event. A lot of our advisors, not necessarily always our new advisors, will provide a historical background. 2-3 organizations I advise, I was their first advisor and I'm still their advisor years later. So I have that background for the organizations. Supporting participation and contribution to the educational and personal development of the members, assisting members in balancing their extracurriculars and intervening in high-risk situations, and all advisors are Clery reporters. So you can find that here. One of the key things, and one of the things on the list, is advisor liability. Yes?
I did want to just go back real quick and ask a question about the advisor interest form.
Yes.
If an organization is looking for a new advisor, how do we go through and see the interested people and to help us make a pool of people to contact?
Anyone who is, it all runs through the SIL ambassadors. So if an organization needs a new advisor, they go to the SIL ambassadors and say, hey, we need a new advisor, will you help us find one?
Okay.
If an advisor's looking, they fill out the form, and then we match also that way through the CIL ambassadors.
Okay.
Advisor liability. This is different for different people. We have on-campus and off-campus advisors involved with the university. Off-campus advisors, to put it frankly, you're on your own. You're taking your own responsibility by advising an organization. If you're part of a national or regional organization, there might be some liability through that, but that is separate. For employees who are advisors, so graduate students, faculty, and staff, you're covered through the general counsel and through the employee liability. So you can go to the general counsel website and read the employee liability section. But what it basically says is if you are operating in the scope and nature of your job, you're covered. So for the example I gave earlier of me traveling with a group to their tournaments, when I travel with them, if I'm making sure they're safe, I'm doing everything, making sure everything goes well, I'm covered. If I'm driving them at 95 miles an hour down the freeway, that's when the liability diverts back to me. Because I wasn't operating in a scope that would fit my job. I wasn't being responsible within my job. But that's how you are covered. As long as you are operating in the scope of your job and operating in a way that the university would want you to operate. So that covers the liability thing. We are going to hop over to the Hub. For anyone who doesn't know, the Hub is our student organization database. It is where we keep the listing of all student organizations. So a few things with this. Up in the top, you will always see some announcements. One of them is our online byway training. The online byway training is a requirement for all treasurers before they can process any financial requests in byway. It's not a bad idea for advisors to go through this too. So you don't have to go through, take all the tests, but to go through and read the material, to learn the material, and to know where to find it when you have a question. That way, if you're like, oh, my student org's trying to order something from Amazon, but I don't remember how to do that, you can go into this training course and see how the student org should do that to help your organization and help your treasurers. What you'll find here is a list of memberships. So this is a list of organizations you advise, upcoming events that are happening on campus, news, and different information. We'll get down to the path section in a minute, but first I want to show you the basics for what you'll see as an advisor. So you can either click on an organization you advise here, or if you click on these dots and manage, you'll go into the manage side of the organization. You can also get there by clicking on the organization from the front page here. What the difference is, when you go to the front page, you'll be able to see the public view. So what just anyone can see when they see your organization. Here, you get to the nuts and bolts of and the running of the organization. The big and slightly less useful difference is that on the front page, there will be organization officers clearly listed. In the inside page, they're not as clearly listed. So one thing to look for when you get into this page, down here where it says who the primary contact is, if underneath that there's a blue box that says, well, if there's a blue box, all it will say is your organization is not registered for the current year. That means your president or treasurer needs to fill out that information to register the organization. Organizations, after they are not registered for so long, will be inactivated. So you need to make sure, if you see that they're going through and registering. Up here in the sandwich menu, you'll see the different tools that you have. So you'll see roster, about, events, all of that. A couple of important things. Roster is where the roster will be managed, and also where messages can be sent out to the organization. So right there is messaging. So I could go in here and I could create a message to the organization. I can choose individual members, I can choose individual roles. If you have people divided up into like member of this committee, you can choose those things. So there's a lot of ways here you can message your organization. It should be noted that officially with the university, an individual is not a member of the organization unless they are listed on the roster. So if you have someone who's not listed here, and if you're like, well, we don't want to message through this because we don't have everyone on there, well, those people aren't officially members of your organization anymore. You can manage positions, and managing positions is extremely important. It's not something we cover too much with outside of presidents and treasurers, but what this means is you can go into a role and you set what access they have. So if you don't want everyone to be able to see your organization's finances, you only want that president, treasurer, and advisor, you can switch what level of access different people have. If you have an event planner that is responsible for creating events in the hub, but that's all they should see, you can set that here to give them that level of access. This is also where members will get invited to the organization. Events is our event planning form. That's where you submit events, and events submitted go through a risk management screening and a few other screenings, making sure the rooms are reserved and all policies are upheld. Documents, that's where you'll find your organization's constitution. It's worth noting, because we get this question a lot, constitutions cannot be deleted. They are considered historical documents, so if you update your constitution, you can't get rid of the old one. You can rename them. So it can be Constitution, Spring 1999, Constitution, Spring 2004, and so forth. As you start getting more and more constitutions, constitutions can't be deleted. Other documents can. You can run forms through here. You can run elections through here. So a lot of people will have sign-ups or applications for their organization under forms. And then one of the big ones is finance. So this organization actually has no financial accounts. So I'm not going to be giving away any of their stuff, but it's worth noting that even you as an advisor, when you click on finance of your org, even if you have accounts, you'll see this, it will say accounts, and there's nothing underneath it. Because you have to actually click on accounts, and here's where it will list your accounts. It's worth noting, parentheses means the account's in the negative. That's a problem. You need to talk to the treasurer of the organization to see what's going on and why their account's in the negative. It is something that advisors should do periodically. We say at least once a month, preferably every couple weeks, to just go check the accounts and make sure they're in good standing. And if it's getting close to zero, make sure that the organization knows what they're doing and that they're not just draining their account. We have had organizations who will be in the negative. They have those parentheses, and they'll see $400 in parentheses, and they'll be like, ooh, we have $400, let's spend it. And so they spend $300 of it. And then they're like, wow, someone must have deposited. We have $700. No, you're driving your organization further in the hole, so that's why we make sure to explain that. So that's some of the basics of the hub. The other useful thing for organizations or for individuals here is this is where their involvement record is. So this is their official involvement record that says what organizations they've been a member of, what roles they've played, events they've been to, things like that. Now, we will be back to the hub to talk about paths in a minute. Because paths are important for organizations to deal with rubric rewards. However, we can't talk about paths until we talk about rubric rewards. So rubric rewards is our tiered reward system for student organizations. There are 4 tiers, and you can find all this information. Our general website is miamioh.edu/student activities. The rubric rewards information is at miamioh.edu/rubric rewards. We love a good short link to help you find what you need. So you go to rubric rewards, you can see what is in all the tiers, and you can see frequently asked questions, which are answer a lot of the questions we've gotten over the past 2.5 years the program's been in place. I'm just going to talk about the tiers briefly. We are not going to go in detail of all the requirements, but we will give you some resources here. Tier 1, this is the basic minimum your organization must do to exist on campus. So this is completing annual registration. This is having a president, treasurer, and advisor, and they're viewable on the hub. This is the minimum of what an organization needs to do to exist. So to stay an organization, your organization should be at least doing this. Tier 4, we looked at what some of our best organizations on campus were doing, and we put those requirements in Tier 4. And then we spaced the other requirements in the middle. What the groups who were doing the bare minimum above just existing were doing for Tier 2, and then what those good but not quite at the top organizations were doing for Tier 4. And we've seen that spaced out based on how things have fallen. So Tier 3, I'm going to just show you how this works and what you can do here. So submitting for the annual Student Engagement Leadership Awards, attending SIL workshops, inclusive leadership training, etc., are the requirements there, and then it gives you the reward. So in this case for Tier 3, you can apply for up to $6,000 in ASG funding. That doesn't mean you get $6,000 in ASG funding. You can apply for it. And then priority ability to register a table at Winter Mega Fair. So for Tier 3 and 4 orgs, they get to request Winter Mega Fair tables a few days early. Winter Mega Fair typically fills up, so our Tier 3 and 4 orgs get the chance to reserve those tables first. One thing you'll see here, and I want to cover these, attending the inclusive leadership training and attending SIL workshops. On our website at miamioh.edu/SIL workshops is our listing of SIL workshops. Our SIL workshops are workshops meant for different training topics for student organizations. So it can be how to plan an event, how to build the best leadership team possible, free speech and campus events. Just any number of topics that we have found that student orgs have requested we cover or that we've seen a need for student organizations to learn about. So you can see that list here. You can also see under some of them, all of them will have what rubric awards things it covers. And for example, this one covers inclusive leadership. That means this doesn't count as a SIL workshop for SIL workshops, but for that inclusive leadership requirement, this counts for that. The exception to that, if your organization does more than one thing that fits in a category. So if you do 2 inclusive leaderships, 2 leadership trainings, anything like that, you can email student activities at miamioh.edu and say, hey, we did 2 inclusive leaderships, we want one of them to count as a SIL workshop, and we'll go in and give you credit for that. You can also do other trainings you do. So if your organization already does other trainings that help your organization function and build things, you can submit those to us and we'll consider those also to count for any of these requirements for inclusive leadership, SIL workshops, or leadership trainings. The other part to cover with this as far as the trainings is our general leadership training. So we have a number of ways you can do this. Your organization, one of the key resources we want to point people to is the Wilkes Leadership Office, and they work with us on a lot of these. Your organization can submit and request for a workshop from the Wilkes Leadership Office, and they will come in and do a leadership training for your organization. If a certain percentage of your organization either goes through Wilkes Leadership Certificate Program or attends the Perlmutter Leadership Conference, that counts as a leadership training. If you do your own leadership training that is on a general leadership topic, that counts. So I, every semester for a few different student orgs I work with, put on a leadership training. We do it, even though this is an annual requirement, they want to do it once a semester to make sure new people who come in the group get covered. So we do on different topics each year, and we go to one of the cabins on campus and do a 3 or 4 hour training, and that counts for them. So it's really just showing that your organization has done a leadership training. We do offer, Wilkes does offer the resources to help you do those, but we can also work with you to accept other things. So the big thing with all of these annual requirements, and this is covered down at the bottom of the frequently asked questions. People get confused about the annual requirements and how those annual requirements work. Annual requirements are per academic year. So that means from the start of fall semester through the end of spring. You have to submit rubric awards every semester, however, and what you apply for and what you complete one semester is what tier you were at the next semester. So there's 7 or so annual requirements, and if you don't do them at the fall, you can't be at the appropriate tier for the spring because you haven't completed those requirements. Now, if you work with us and you reach out with us, we have a number of organizations who do this and say, hey, we do our transitions in March. So we would like to hold off on that annual requirement till the spring, but we already have it planned, here's our plan. We work with organizations on things like that. But for the most part, you have to submit those in the fall. It can't just be a, yeah, we'll get to it. You have to have a plan and be able to show us what your plan is and how you're going to do that. For the SIL awards, which we'll talk more about the SIL awards in a minute, but for that, submitting that, you can submit repeatedly. So you can submit a poster or a flyer or an outstanding event from the fall and then submit more stuff in the spring. So make sure for the annual requirements that you submit those in the fall to be able to reach the tier you want to in the spring. The other thing with this, one of the requirements is we ask for tier 4, a transition binder. You'll notice binder is in quotes. The reason binder's in quotes, we don't expect you to come in with a 3-ring binder and hand it to us. Most organizations don't use that as a way to do this anyway. They use a Google Drive. Great, share the Google Drive with student activities at miamioh.edu, show us that you have it, and that's fantastic. A lot of organizations for a lot of these requirements. There's requirements where you have to send those. You have to show us that you're doing a semesterly evaluation of how the organization's going. A lot of organizations have just created Google folders that are permanently shared with student activities. where they say, hey, here you go, here's where we put our requirements, they're all linked here, and then the SILs can go in and look through the different requirements to see what's there. You still have to submit for all of your requirements, however, and that's where we get to paths back on the hub. So on the hub, under paths, this is where you submit for different requirements. So a student org will go here and they will say,
Chase.
Quick question.
Yeah.
When you said folks will come in and do training, is there a cost to that, or? is
No.
Okay.
no, you'll have to work within their schedule. They have a number of student leaders who will go in. So scheduling is not that you can say, we need you to come in April 1st at 4 p.m. You're going to have to work with them on scheduling, but there's typically no cost associated.
Got it.
So, treasurer successfully completes byway training. You can go here, mark it complete, choose the date they completed byway training, and submit, and all of a sudden you will have a completed requirement. That's how simple it is for people to submit most things. Some of the requirements do require a reflection for you to be able to either provide us a link or to say this is what we did, and we ask that that reflection not be we did a training this day. Because the questions we ask are, what did you cover in the training and what did your organization get out of it? Write 3 or 4 sentences, a small paragraph. That's all that we're looking for. We don't need to read long things, except for when it's things like your semesterly evaluation. The good thing about this, for PATH, every student organization has an entity account. We'll cover what those are and how they get them in a minute. However, you as an advisor should have the password to the entity account. Part of that is you as the advisor had to set the password for the entity account for the organization. So if you log in as the entity account, you can go here, and when you go to involvement records and you scroll to the bottom, you'll see what events they've been to. We track entity accounts for SIL workshops. So you'll be able to see they have gone to these SIL workshops. They said they went to this one. I don't see it on here. I should ask them. You'll be able to go to PATH and be like, oh, here's how far they are. Here's what they've done, and be able to talk to your organization about that. So having that is important. So now backing up to entity accounts. Under Student Org Resources, there's IT services for student organizations. If your organization doesn't have an entity account, this is where you request it. An entity account is your organization name at miamioh.edu. So chess club at miamioh.edu instead of just using one of the members' names. Those are requested, and the primary contact for those have to be the student org advisor. They don't want it to be the president, and then the president leaves, and the organization's applying for another entity account. So the primary trustee of this has to be the advisor. The secondary trustee should be a student. This is a separate email for your organization, so your organization can receive email here, and then you don't have one person who's getting the email and they drop and everything's gone. You can set this as the primary contact for your organization, so it will get all important announcements. We suggest, and ASG may soon require, that you submit forms in the hub through your entity account. So instead of the treasurer submitting for your ASG funding, your entity account would submit for your ASG funding, and that'll make things much easier for all parties. That also allows everyone to track what's going on. So instead of, well, it's the secretary's job to do RevRec rewards, we hope they do it. Instead of that, it is everyone can see it and everyone can track the progress to make sure things are getting done. So that is our entity accounts. The default password is your default password, which is why you have to change it as the primary trustee. So it'll be the 2-digit birth month, 2-digit birth date, and last 4 of your social. And you should have the student org send you exactly what they want you to change it to. And you change it to that, and then you keep a record of it so you have access to it as well. And if they're like, oh, we forgot our password, you'll have that. We've mentioned ASG funding. Again, we're not going to go too deep into the weeds with finance here, but ASG funding is available for student organizations. There are separate trainings on that. There's different categories of ASG funding. So ASG funding, there is event funding. There is capital funding, which is for items your organization wants to request that you need to keep for a period of time. So organizations who have applied for a tablecloth to use at mega fairs for the next few years or things like that, that would be capital funding. And administrative funding is Those things your organization must have to exist. So a couple of examples of that: if your organization has an office on campus, they may need paper and pens. They may need, one of the things that does count as administrative funding is an advertisement to advertise that your org exists on the digital displays. That counts as an administrative funding request. Another example would be if the president of your organization is required to go to a conference for your organization to stay a member of that national organization. That is something required for your org to exist. Now, if it is suggested or requested, but it's not required, that falls into a different type of funding that goes back into events. But if it's required they be there, or your national charter will be revoked, that can fall into administrative funding. So the other I mentioned was finance information, that you need to be checking your account, make sure things are out of the right account. There's two student org accounts, an agency account and an ASG account. Agency is for money that you have fundraised or dues or anything like that. And your ASG account is for ASG, to make sure things are coming out of the right account, to check that. The other important thing, and again, all of this was covered in depth at last month's training, so we're not going too in depth here. Contracts. Contracts for student organizations. Do not sign them. You shouldn't be signing contracts for student organizations. If your organization is a registered student organization, they should be meeting with either Drew Davis or myself in the Office of Student Activities, but the student will sign that contract, not the advisor. If it's an affiliated organization, your department or division will have a designee to sign the contract. And again, unless that is you, you shouldn't be signing the contract. So that's just one important thing that we need to remind advisors. Do not sign a contract as an advisor. Next up, we're going to talk a little bit about the SIL ambassadors. Our SIL ambassadors, which you can find their information at miamioh.edu/SIL ambassador. These are our student peer mentors who are there to help organizations. The reason that their primary page is under the involvement page, their first responsibility is to meet with prospective students who come on campus to help them find a home on campus. So we advertise that heavily, and they still have meetings now, partway through the second semester, of people coming up to them and saying, hey, I haven't quite found a group that's right for me. I haven't quite found an opportunity that's right for me. Can we chat? And they help them find that place. However, what they spend most of their time doing is serving as a peer mentor to student organizations. So if a student organization is having trouble with a member, they come in and talk to the SIL ambassadors first. If a student organization wants help with marketing, or if a student organization wants help with rewriting a constitution, their first step is to meet with a SIL ambassador. And our SIL ambassadors are there to help them through all of these processes. The SIL ambassadors are also the ones who process all the rubric awards. So if they have questions about that, and a Tier 2 requirement is to meet with a SIL ambassador, that's where the SIL ambassadors come in. The SIL ambassadors also run our mega fair, so our annual student organization fairs, and they also run our SIL Awards program. So our SIL Awards are annual rewards not rewards, that's rubric awards, annual awards that are given out to student organizations. The application deadline is the end of February. So 9 days from now is the application deadline for SIL Awards. These are a Tier 3 requirement and rubric awards, but more importantly, this is a great opportunity for organizations to get recognized for the amazing things they do on campus. So we have awards in a number of different categories. We have Advisor of the Year, New Advisor of the Year, Off-Campus Advisor of the Year, that organizations can nominate some of you for the different awards. I should point out at this point, for our people on regionals, there's a separate awards process for anyone on the regionals campus, and you would talk to the Regional Office of Student Activities to learn about that process. I'm going to be covering the Oxford process here. I will say the applications are in the same place. If you go to the front of the hub, in this middle box, the SIL Awards and the Regional Organization Awards applications are both there, so you can fill them out, but the exact awards that I'm covering are ones that are given out on the Oxford campus. So we do give out advisor awards in 3 categories. We give out different categories for student leaders. So student leader of the year, president of the year, new org member of the year. We give out different awards in those categories. So you should be nominating some of your students you've worked with for those. We give out different event awards. So awards for outstanding event, best multicultural event, collaborative event, and a number of other categories. We give out organization awards, so Organization of the Year and New Student Award, Most Improved Student Award. This is showing you some of our winners from the past year. And then we also give out some graphic design awards. So awards for outstanding posters and flyers, publications, and different graphic designs. Again, the nominations are due for those next week. So make sure to get those in, make sure your organization's nominating, and that you have some good nominations in. Now, I promised you that I would explain the SIL thing. Again, our SIL workshops, our SIL ambassadors, our SIL awards. The SIL is the area of Armstrong we're in, the student engagement leadership area. So you'll hear us refer to SIL a lot, and I know it can get confusing because we have SIL workshops, SIL awards, SIL ambassadors, SIL everything. If you just hear us talking about the SILs, that would be our SIL ambassadors, but there are a number of things we talk about with SILs, and that's an explanation of that. The final topic I have current to cover is just a kind of everything else lump. And then I'll be open for any questions you have. And the everything else lump starts with the books. So we do have as resources for advisors to check out. This was the book originally written as the guide to advising student organizations. So this was the guide written to help advisors know how to advise student organizations. They came out with a new updated edition, has some new things of what to consider with policies and procedures as things that changed in the about 10 years since they wrote the first book. And so this is a resource that can be checked out by advisors to go through and learn more tips about advising. To me, one of the most useful things in here is there is a checklist. And it is a two-part checklist where on one part, you hand it to the students and you say, hey, what are your expectations of me? And this is what it looks like on both sides. You go, what do you think I should be doing as an advisor of the org? And then you take it also and go, I think I should be doing these things. And then you sit down with the students and see where you matched up and where there may be differences. Because the students may feel you need to be coming to every one of their meetings where you feel that's not important, and this gives you a chance to talk about that and work that out with the students to see what their expectations are of you, and what your expectations of being an advisor are. So that's one of the resources in here, that this is an excellent book that will teach you a lot of the different things about what it means to work with a student org and be an advisor. Again, our website has a lot of these resources that you may need. But now I'd like to see, does anyone have any questions or other topics they'd like us to cover?
Are the books available for off-campus advisors as well?
Yes, the books are also available for off-campus advisors to check out.
We have a bibliographic information just in case someone wants to purchase the book and have the book in their office instead of checking it out.
Yes, we will email to everyone who RSVP'd for this, and we will put a link in the YouTube video for information about the book. So we'll both email it out and put a link. Looking on the webcast, I don't see any questions there. Great, if you have any other questions, please reach out to studentactivities@miamioh.edu. Our SIL ambassadors, our head SIL ambassadors, do monitor that email daily, and anything that they can answer, they do, and anything else they forward to the appropriate staff member. So any questions you have, please feel free to reach out to that, and it will get to the right person. Thank you all very much, and we love being a resource for you for anything with advising. Click stream first.
We should have gone over this before.
Click stream.